Hello, thanks for checking out my video. Today we'll be working on some fine motor skills, some visual perception, a little bit of visual memory, some visual motor skills in scanning, and visual motor integration skills. And we'll be doing all of those skills with our activity here of using Fruit Loops to match colors on this rainbow snack mat paper that I found on the internet for free. So there are I have three different pieces of paper because there are three different ways that we can do this activity to match your child's skill level. So I'll review all three of those with you. So the first way that we can prepare this activity or use these materials is just matching colors. So for this particular activity, what we'll do is just match the color of the Fruit Loop to the color on your paper. And if your student maybe has a little bit of a desire to color, they can color in each circle. That would be a good way to really highlight each little target area. So if your student is not really demonstrating this kind of precision with their coloring, you can do some hand over hand assistance with them to help them understand the boundaries a little bit of their motor actions and to develop a little bit of spatial awareness. Or if you want to expedite the process, you can prepare this activity beforehand and complete this yourself so that your student can go ahead and just jump right into matching the colors from the Fruit Loops onto the pieces of paper. So I'm almost done with this portion now. And when I am done, I can move on to matching. So now that I have this portion done, I can go back and color in the rest of these, which I'll do in just a second. But essentially what we will be doing is placing one Fruit Loop on the corresponding color. So I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring in the rest of these circles now. And if your student is working on some spatial awareness, this might be a good activity for them to do if they have a little bit of fine motor skills. So I'm going to go ahead and put this off to the side and finish coloring in the rest of this. So now that I have all of my circles colored in, I'm ready to begin matching for the first activity here. And this is kind of the object here, is to really just match the colors, but you can kind of change how difficult you want this to be for your students. So we can pull them out of the bag one by one. Your student can. You can get some good bilateral coordination practice here. They can hold the bag, or you can just put it on the table. You can put it in front of them so they work on their vertical pursuits from the bag of the Fruit Loops down to the mat. Or you can put them on the side so you can work on some horizontal visual pursuits from this side over to the other side. Or we can, if you wanted to make a little bit of a mess, you can just dump them all out, and then you can spread them around the entire visual area here, the visual field. You can spread them all around the visual field. Here, I'll just put a couple over here. And then we can do a little bit of visual perception practice here, as we're really kind of using maybe some good visual memory. We remember where, say, the red one is. If we need to match that, we'll go and scan over here. Remember where the red one is, match it to the red. There's just a bunch of different ways that you can do this first activity and have it be beneficial for your students. So be mindful of that as we go ahead. And again, we're working on some fine motor skills. So a nice 3-jaw chuck or a pincer grasp, or even just like a lateral pinch, kind of where my thumb is wrapped over. These are all good. We're really getting some good dexterity skills as we manipulate this small item here. And then the rest is pretty self-explanatory. So we can switch it up. We can go right to left. We can cross our midline. But really, this is all under the guise of a color matching activity. So we'll just use this simple skill that we're working on here of matching colors to actually develop a whole bunch of different skills, the whole gamut. So this will be our first activity, and if you are enjoying just the color matching portion of this, then maybe this is the activity for your student to do. But now that we have the concept, we would just continue on and we would do the rest of them. Now we have that figured out. If you wanted to make the challenge a little bit more difficult than just the color matching, then we would not do this all the way, and maybe we would do it a different way. So I'll demonstrate how to do that now. So if your student's ready for a little bit more of a challenge, what we can do is I'm going to clear out my Fruit Loops from my previous activity or previous option. And if we wanted to have it just a little bit more advanced, maybe what we want to do is turn this color matching activity into a counting activity. So we can now use this as kind of like a chart, I guess you would call it. And our Fruit Loops are now, not only are we going to still color match, but we're also going to use these as a counting manipulative. So for this more advanced option, what we would do is write numbers all the way up here. So we're going to count each one of these out. And if your student has the ability to write these numbers, this is great practice for writing smaller numbers within this highlighted area. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this counting portion of it and write numbers in all of my circles. So now that I have all of my numbers within the circles, I'm ready to start counting Fruit Loops. So we can use the same concept again of our placement being a part of the challenge. So our placement of the Fruit Loops is going to dictate which skill, visual motor skill, we want to work on. So just to review, if you want to work on vertical visual pursuits, we would have our pile of Fruit Loops up on the top. If you wanted to work on scanning and some visual perception skills, maybe you want to work on visual figure ground, then we would scan throughout our entire visual field just by placing the Fruit Loops kind of all over the place. And if we wanted to keep them all on, say, the left side, then we would work on our bilateral coordination skills as we cross the midline of our body, and also work on our horizontal visual pursuits from our pile of Fruit Loops back to our mat here. So those are the different ways that we can make this simple challenge into a visual motor skills or bilateral skills challenge. But now let's move on back to the counting portion of this, and we're just going to go straight from our pile here, and we're going to count Fruit Loops one at a time with a nice pincer grasp. We're getting some good fine motor skills going on here. And we're also getting some good graded muscle force. So we're not squeezing these Fruit Loops so hard that they smash. We are, in fact, being a little bit gentle with them. Just the right amount of force to grab them and make sure that we can count them, but also not too much force that we smash them. So we're going to go ahead and finish just counting this, and what we're going to do, or finish demonstrating how to do this, we're just going to count real quick as we go. So this is just another visual cue for us as we count, and then ultimately we would have all of the Fruit Loops kind of charted out there so that we can basically measure how many of each color are in the bag that you got. So that was the second option, and now I'll review the third option of how to use these materials. And this third option will be the most advanced option. So this third most advanced option will involve letters. So if you wanted the middle option for difficulty, that was the numbers. The numbers. And if you want the most difficult option, then you wouldn't do the numbers. You would keep your mat right here and use it a different way, which I will demonstrate now. And that will be with letters. So we'll basically treat this mat as, again, the same way we did with the numbers, as a nice visual cue for practicing writing smaller letters in this case. So this area right here will be a nice boundary for us to practice. And when we're done writing all of the letters in these different circles, we can treat this card like a bingo card, and we can have our students matching the letter that we call out as well as the color that we call out. So if your student's working on some writing skills, this is a great time for them to write all of the letters of the alphabet within each of these, or one in each circle, but all of the letters of the alphabet, and see how many you can get on there. So this would be a great time for them to do that. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So now that I have all of the letters within each circle, I'm ready to begin this portion of the activity where I kind of treat it like a bingo card. So I wasn't able to get all of the letters in here. I had to stop at R, P for orange, O for yellow, M for green, K for blue, and J for purple, just because I ran out of circles to put my letters in. And I easily could have kept on going here, so QR could have started on S here, but I really want to have the same kind of letters out here as much as possible so that I can scan throughout my entire visual field and try to locate the exact item that I'm calling for. So for this option, the most advanced option, we're going to be calling out each color and a letter. So for this one, I'm going to say, okay, put a Fruit Loop on red M. So I will have to look throughout my entire visual field, have the visual perception skills to say which color is which, and then I will have to scan and have the visual memory of what letter it is that I'm going to look for. So red M is right there, and we're on to the next letter essentially. So again, where you're placing your Fruit Loop item here is really going to kind of guide how you're going to use these materials in terms of developing maybe bilateral coordination or different visual motor skills, either horizontal pursuits or vertical pursuits. But we're really getting some good scanning going here. So any way you shake it, you really can't miss. You're going to be good. Fine motor skills, nice pincer grasp, 3-jaw chuck, or lateral pinch. Good dexterity as we complete this. And I'll call out my next color and letter. So yellow, G. Again, I'm looking throughout my entire visual field, and there we go. I've placed my Fruit Loop on the correct color and letter. So if this is the option that you are going to use with your child, then you would go ahead and complete the rest of them until you were, say, tired of the activity, or maybe until your student needed a break, or until you're done, and then you can have a snack and just enjoy the Fruit Loops afterwards. So those are the 3 different options for this activity. Just to recap, we can either use this sheet just to match colors. We can use this sheet if we wanted to count and use the Fruit Loops as counting manipulatives. Or we can use the sheet for writing practice if we're writing our letters, and also for just letter recognition and matching purposes. So those are the three different ways that you can do this activity at home with your student. And please feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions on how to implement these strategies.